Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. Wheat planting is in high gear across Oklahoma, and for an update we're joined by David Marburger, our Extension Small Grain Specialist. And David, why don't you just kind of start with an overview of how farmers are doing and how they're managing around all this rain?
Well, one thing about it, we can't complain about the rain for this year. Unfortunately, in some areas we've been getting a little too much rain. It'd be nice if we could kind of bottle that up a little bit, maybe spread it out. But again, we can't be complaining about the rain. Like you said, we're in high gear right now. We're about in mid-October, which is the optimal time right now for getting our wheat planted for our grain-only systems. In terms of progress throughout the state here, according to our latest USDA report, we're about 65–66% planted, so about 2/3 of the way done there, which is just a couple points up from last year and a couple points up from the normal here. And yeah, with the rains here, we are getting dry enough in some areas to get those drills back out again here, and we'll keep making progress.
Keep rolling along. Now, in northern Oklahoma, especially around Kay County, were there some issues with the newly planted seeds washing away?
Well, in some of those areas where they got 6+ inches of rain, if they had the wheat in the ground, it's going to be very hard for that, if it's still there, to emerge. So more than likely, in some of those areas, especially where water's been sitting for quite a while, they will probably have to go back in and replant those areas.
And then last but not least, you and the team getting the variety trials planted here in Stillwater at the agronomy farm, and then also around the state?
Exactly, yeah, we're really working hard here. We have a lot of our variety trials are that grain only system, so kind of targeting that first week into second week of October here. We're trying to get around to the different parts of the state and get those put in. I'd say right now, well, if things go well, I don't want to jinx ourselves right now, but if things go well, finishing out the week here, we'll be close to being about halfway done. And we'll be able to, and going for that second half of those trials, we'll be able to finish those up again pretty quickly, again knocking on wood and assuming that things don't go wrong.
Managing around Mother Nature just like everyone else.
Exactly. That's one of the, there's a lot of benefits and drawbacks of having the number of variety trials that we have, being so spread out. It does take a while to get to these different locations, but when we're trying to work around Mother Nature, when it rains in one part of the state, we can usually go to another part of the state.
Okay. Best of luck, David. Thank you very much. And now we want to hear from Josh Lofton on how canola planting is going.
For those guys that are uninsured or just want to get some extra acres in, we still have really good conditions. That rain really helped us out. We like to say if you got good soil moisture and you got mild conditions, you can probably still plant, and we're still recommending folks to plant the majority of this week. Even if we get really mild conditions, what you're banking on a mid-October planting for canola, you're hoping that it won't freeze until late December. And the likelihood of that is obviously going to be low. The thing they have to know is that what they planted this week and even the latter part of last week is going to take much longer to emerge. And so the big thing is to not sell this crop off. If you planted, the 5th through the 15th, you're probably looking at an emergence that we typically see in about 4 or 5 days. You're probably going to see it more along the lines of 10 to 12 days. The big thing of it is try to minimize those other stressors, because that's the biggest thing. When you've late planted your canola, if you planted this week, even if you're wanting to tickle this weekend or next week, all the other stressors have to be minimized. But know that once we get past this week, the likelihood of success has greatly decreased.
Many times here on the Cow-Calf Corner, we talk about the importance of body condition at different times of the year, whether it be for adult cows or for replacement heifers. I thought on today's show we'd take some time to remind everybody about the body condition scoring system that we use as both researchers and ranchers when we're evaluating the fatness of cattle and what that importance would be in terms of their productivity. We use a 1 through 9 body condition scoring system, and it's meant to cover all of the biological possibilities of beef cattle that you might see out here on ranches, with 1 being the most emaciated, thin animal that you can ever imagine, down to 9 being a very, very obese cow. Most of the cattle that we work with in our ranches will be in the neighborhood of 3 through 8, and quite frankly, we could probably narrow it down to 80–85% of the cattle will fall in the middle scores of 4, 5, and 6. I think that's the three scores we really want to zero in on. If we can determine what a 4 is, what a 5 is, and what a 6 body condition score cow is, then we can tell pretty much what changes we need to make and what kind of production to expect out of those cattle. How do we tell the difference between a 4 and a 5 and a 6? I think we want to remember that we're looking for the fatness, the fat that lies between the skeletal system and the hide. And one of the key areas that I would look at is along the edge of the loin, right in front of the hook bone. If you look at this particular graphic, you can see a drawing of those vertebrae that point out towards you, kind of like flat fingers. And if the cow is real thin, a body condition score 4 or less, then the hide will wrap in around those vertebrae to where you can visually identify them as you look at her from the side. Also, you'll probably be able to see more than 2 ribs showing up in the last part of the rib cage. As we get to the body condition score 5 cow, then that tends to disappear and we can only see about the last 2 ribs of the rib cage. Let's look now at some examples. Here's a body condition score 4 cow, a picture taken in the winter time where she has a pretty heavy winter hair coat. And that reminds us that we have to be able to identify these different scores even when these cattle have substantial hair to look through. The next picture shows a body condition score 5 cow. Now, as we would look along the edge of the loin and the rib cage, it's smoother. And if she had a summer hair coat, we might be able to see the outline of the last couple of ribs. As we go to the body condition score 6, this 2-year-old heifer looks bloomy to us. She's smooth. There's certainly no evidence of those vertebrae pointing out towards us along the edge of the loin, and the rib cage is completely covered. The importance of body condition scores really shows up when we take a look at what happens if they're in different body condition scores at calving. Lots of research has been done through the years on this particular subject, and it can be summarized with this particular chart. The cows that are a little too thin, those that body condition score 4 or less, tended to reproduce at a lower level, on the average about 60%, in a defined 60 to 75 day breeding season. Cows that were in a body condition score 5 did better, and they reproduced in the neighborhood of about 80% in terms of reproduction. Once we got to those in the body condition score 6 category, then we got nearly all of the studies showing above 90% in terms of rebreeding during that defined breeding season. That's why body condition score at calving is so very, very important. I thought it would be worth our time to take a look at what the different body condition scores are and what it means, so as we talk about it on future cow-calf corners, you'll have a better idea of what these mean, and when you go out and look at your cattle this winter, you may need to make some adjustments to make sure that most of these adult cows are in a body condition score of at least a 5, approaching a 6, to get the best rebreeding performance that you can expect for those cows and a good calf crop the following year. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
In Vetscripps this week, Extension veterinarian Dr. Barry Whitworth has tips on identifying parasites in sheep and goats.
Gastrointestinal parasites are the #1 health concern for sheep and goat producers. And what compounds this problem is that many of the anthometics or dewormers that we use are not as effective as they once were. So in order for us to do a good job of deworming these animals, we need to try to reduce the number of times or the amount of dewormer that we use in these animals. Well, one way we can do this is through targeted selected treatment. And this is a concept that was developed down in South Africa by some professors there, one being Professor Milan, in which he realized that 20% of the sheep in your herd or goats in your herd are contributing 80% of the problem with your parasites out in your pasture. So if we could deworm that 20%, we do as good a job as if we deworm the whole herd. Well, in order to pick out those 20%, you're either going to have to do a fecal egg count on every animal in your herd, which could be very time consuming. So he came up with what he called Pfaffer-Milon's chart, or in simpler terms, we call it FMANCHA. And what we do with this chart is we look at the eyes of the sheep and goat, and based on how anemic they are, we decide which ones get dewormed. Now, we can't use this in a vacuum because there are other things that cause anemia besides parasites. And we also have to remember this is only for the Haemorrhagis contortus parasite. So there could be other parasites causing you problems that we would miss using this chart. Now, Professor Bath down in South Africa came up with a solution to that, which he calls as his 5-point check. And in that system, we take a look at different areas of the animal and decide whether we might need to also deworm those animals. Now, he also incorporates first FMANCHA, the eye chart that we use, but he also takes a look at the nasal passages of sheep. Do we have a problem with nasal blots? He looks at the jaw. Do we have submandibular anemia, which would be bottle jaw in layman's terms? We would deworm those animals. We take a look at body condition scoring. If we have poor body condition, we would deworm those animals. And then we take a look at the tail or the dag area, which we're getting a score there, and that is just how much fecal material is adhering to the wool or the hair of these animals. If it's excessive, we'd want to go ahead and deworm these animals. Now, some other people have added hair coat for goats. If we have rough hair coats, we would suggest deworming these animals. Now, I hope that you don't have a problem with parasites, but if you do, incorporating some of these things will help us to reduce the amount of dewormer we're using in these animals, and hopefully these dewormers will be more effective for a longer period of time as we go.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. Cold fronts really changed the day in Oklahoma. You head out the door with it warm and calm. Later going outside, you get treated to a blast of cold. It's a whole new game before you can get back home for warmer clothes. And oh, how we saw that on Wednesday. The maximum air temperatures on Wednesday look good, with many locations reaching 70 or higher. But for locations west and north of a line from Lawton to Oklahoma City to Tulsa, the highs for Wednesday came before noon. By 2:45 in the afternoon, the cold front had moved well south of I-44. In the red area, air temperatures were in the mid-80s. In the green areas at 2:45 Wednesday afternoon, temperatures were cool from the low 60s down to the mid-50s. A map of the 24-hour air temperature change showed that a lot of Mesonet locations had more than a 30-degree drop in air temperature from Tuesday afternoon to Wednesday afternoon. And that was just the air temperature. The winds behind the cold front at 2:45 were from the north and gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour in the tan and orange areas. By 6:30 in the evening, the cold front had pushed through most of the state, with just a small area in the southeast still warm, with temperatures hovering around 80 degrees. At 6:30, temperatures behind the cold front ranged from the mid-60s to 52 in Boise City. For cattle, the Mesonet Cattle Comfort Advisor at 2:45 on Wednesday ranged from a low of 35 in Osage County to a high of 100 at Broken Bow in McCurtain County. That's a 65-degree spread in the Cattle Comfort Index over the state. A Cattle Comfort Index of 35 isn't all that cold for cattle if they have time to adjust to the change, but a rapid change can make them more prone to getting sick. You can stay on top of cold fronts as they sweep across our state with 5-minute updates of Mesonet air temperatures, wind, and cattle comfort on Mesonet mobile apps or website. Drought has started to creep into conversations around the state. A map of 30-day rainfall through Wednesday, October 12th, shows that the Panhandle and Southeast, the blue areas, have had less than an inch of rain over the last 30 days. As a percent of normal, those drier, bright orange areas have received less than 40% of their normal rainfall from September 12th through October 11th. The yellowish areas over a large part of eastern Oklahoma have had less than 80% of their normal rainfall. Green areas were close to normal, and the blue areas have received almost 200% of their normal rainfall over the last 30 days. If you're in one of the drier areas, hopefully you'll be getting some of the next rain that comes through our state. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Mesonet Weather Report.
Talking livestock now, here's our extension beef cattle specialist Dave Lallman with some advice on managing calves out on the range.
This is a research operation here at the Range Cow Research Center. We're going to individually identify this calf, and while we've got him caught, we're also going to go ahead and castrate him with a bander, and so we just thought we'd show you how we go through that process. So first thing he's going to do is tag the calf with an individual ID tag, and he's going to aim for the middle 1/3 of the ear. So middle 1/3 from inside to outside and middle 1/3 from top to bottom, trying to avoid the cartilage ribs inside the ear. And so he's got that tag placed right in the middle, and that should keep from damaging that ear long term in terms of it bending over time, because that's why we try to avoid the cartilage in the ear there. Next thing he's going to do is band this calf. It's a good time to do that while we've got him caught. The younger this process takes place, the less stress it is on the animals. So he's going to make certain that he's got the band placed above the testicles, and make sure he can count to 2, so that there's 2 testicles in the scrotum there. And the nice thing about doing it at this stage is these calves at this very young age will hardly even know that it's been done. It's very low stress at this stage of the process. Finally, the last thing that we're going to do, many commercial operations might not, most seed stock operations do weigh their calves to record individual birth weights. And so we've got an electronic scale here, a kind of an electronic fish scale, and he's going to just pick that up until it settles and then read the weight. What's he weigh, Miles?
75 even.
So 75-pound calf. I might mention this calf got a red tag because we're using a rotational crossbreeding program here at the North Range unit. Some of the cows, not all, but some of the cows get, if they're Angus sired females, they get Hereford bulls. If they're Hereford sired females, they get Angus bulls. And so this is a Hereford sired calf out of an Angus sired cow.
Kim Anderson, our crop marketing specialist, joins us now. Kim, the latest supply and demand numbers are out. Let's get right to wheat and the most important numbers in the report.
Well, one of those is ending stocks. For all wheat, it was at 1,138,000,000 bushels. That was a 38 million bushel increase, or 3.5%. But if you look at hard red winter wheat, they increased ending stocks to 601 million bushels. That's a 9.7% increase for hard red winter wheat. That's the highest since 1986 or 1987.
And then in terms of the stocks to use ratio, what's that picture look like?
Well, it looks a little better than the ending stocks. They came out at 50%. That's about the same as it was last year, and that's the highest since 1985, when the stocks to use ratio was 97%. Now in 87 they were 47%, and the price was $2.57. In 85 it was $3.08. In 88, 29% ending stocks at $2.42. In 1991 it was at 20% and $3 average annual price, and the lowest stocks to use we've ever had was 16% in 1995, and the price was $4.55 a bushel. Right now our price is $2.70 to $2.85. Since June 1 we've averaged about $3.10 a bushel. So what we've got is 50% stocks to use ratio, and prices almost down to where they were in the mid-1980s.
Kind of dismal. What are your price expectations as a result of this?
Well, I think prices have to stay low right now so that we won't plant more wheat acres. However, I think by next June we've got to raise this price, or the market has to raise the price, so that we will put some nitrogen on the wheat so that we can have a milling quality product.
Okay, Kim Anderson, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. And now here's SUNUP's Curtis Hare with a story from the Tulsa State Fair on the final chapter for a longtime FFA member.
It's already hit that I'm a senior and laughs are happening, but it's really going to hit at OYE when I show for the last time.
Throughout Oklahoma, county fairs are a staple for communities. Even in the smallest of counties, fair season serves as a platform to bring people together. For 17-year-old Lexi Moody, the Hughes County Fair is the beginning of the end for something she's loved to do since she was 9, showing animals.
In the 3rd grade, I was 9 years old, and my brother showed swine, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to show pigs. So I started showing pigs, and come the end of the year, the show year, I found myself more in the goat barn with someone else's project than my own in the swine. And my 4th grade year, I told my parents, I said, I want to show goats.
Lexi found her passion in working and showing goats. She became heavily involved in FFA at Moss Public Schools. Lexi says though she loves it, living the livestock life isn't always the easiest thing.
Oh gosh, well, it's kind of hard juggling going to school, and I play softball as well. So as soon as I get home from softball practice, I go straight to the barn. I'm out here washing. I have 3 other goats at home and possibly another one coming. So my animals, I have a lot of them, but just countless hours in the barn and just making sure everything is done right.
Hughes County Extension educator Abby Kazee helped Lexi develop her showing skills.
Lexi has an unbelievable work ethic. She works really hard with all of her show projects. I've known her since she grew up in 4-H, and I think she's just one of those individuals that you just don't see every day. Really hard worker, really successful, and she's going to do whatever it takes to be successful.
Lexi's next big show is the Tulsa State Fair, another last. For her mother, Christy, whether Lexi is showing at the small county fair or in packed arenas like in Tulsa, it's all important.
Oh, just watching her start from nothing and seeing what the ending outcome is. Whether you win or lose, you put a lot of time and effort and a lot of heart into it.
Lexi's last show in Tulsa goes well. She makes the top 5 in her class, and it's time for the ribbon round. If she makes the top 2, she'll move on to compete for her division.
I ended up 3rd in my class. I wasn't really able to evaluate the goats myself, but I'll take 3rd place. I was up in the top 5. Just to be in the top 10, it's great.
As the school year starts to wind down, Lexi's showing career will as well. Her last show is this April, and for her mom, it'll be bittersweet.
At first, I thought, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for May to get here, get past all this and get out of all the headache of hustle and bustle and everything. But after we played our last softball game the other day and saw that came to an end and started in on this week, I know that this is going to come to an end too soon. And, it's a part of our life. That's all we do, sports and show animals.
I'll miss being with all my friends, Kylie, and being with my family and my ag teachers. Just not seeing them or just coming to a show and just not being able to involve and showing is just really it's gonna hit me.
Lexi will attend Seminole State College next fall, and her goal is to enroll in the College of Dentistry at OU. Although she will pursue a career outside of the livestock business, Lexi says she wants to help kids discover a passion for showing like she did. From Tulsa County, I'm Curtis Hare.
Finally today, you're invited to the 3rd annual Cowboy Stampede Rodeo next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. It's at the Payne County Fairgrounds on Highway 51 East in Stillwater. Tickets are $10 each. Students and alumni get a discount, and children under 5 are free. To find out more, go to sunup.okstate.edu. That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime online at sunup.okstate.edu and also follow us on YouTube and social media. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone, and remember, Oklahoma Ag starts at sunup.